So what I want to share with you now is, first thing, this has heavenly origin. Alif Lam Mim Dhalik al-Kitab. But then there are two principles that Allah Azza wa Jal revealed. Two things that will define my relationship with this book. The first of those principles is La Rayba Fihi. There's absolutely no room for any doubt that bothers you on the inside whatsoever in it. In this book, there's no room for any skepticism, any uncertainty. I'm not so sure. Is it really from Allah? There's no room for that whatsoever. Not in this book. And so the question then arises, how not? I will get to that in a second. The first of them is, there should be no room for doubt. And the only way you will have no doubt left, how can you talk to just somebody and say, this is the book of God? He'll say, well, I have a Bible, that's the book of God too. Somebody else will bring a Veda from the Hindu scripture and say, this is a book of God too. Actually, this is a book of lots of gods. You know? So, how are you saying Book of Mormon is a book of God? Your book, the Quran, is a book of God. How am I supposed to know that this one's right and those are wrong? So some of you are in college, your friend comes to you, you know, there's so many religions, somebody's got to be wrong. How do you know you guys are right? You're like, well, you know, luck of the draw. Sometimes you have kids that come to their parents and say, you know, don't you ever wonder, Mom, when Judgment Day comes, which one's going to be right? And moms freak out like, like, what do I recite on this child? What ruqyah do I do? You know. How are we supposed to know? How are we supposed to know without any room of any doubt that this is the book of Allah? How did the followers of Musa alayhi salam know without a doubt that he's a messenger? They questioned him so much, didn't they? But when he struck the staff and the water parted, if you were in that audience, there is no room left. He's a messenger of God. You know what? I'm just going to go through this river with a Tawd al-Azim on either side, two massive mountains of water standing and retaining a shape without a container, and I'm going through in the middle. He's definitely a messenger. I'm done questioning. I'm good. I'm straight. I'm set. In other words, when does doubt get removed? When you see a miracle. Doubt is removed when you see a miracle. The people who followed Isa alayhi salam, who questioned Isa alayhi salam, when they see a clay bird turn into a real living bird by Allah's permission, the doubt is gone. When a staff turns into a snake, the doubt is gone. But the question is, this book is not parting any rivers. This book is not turning any sticks into a snake. It's just printed, glossy paper. Where's the miracle? Allah Azza wa Jal gave us this book, and it's miraculous not for the eyes. It's miraculous for the ears. This is the last of all miracles. Those miracles that were given to previous prophets, to remove doubt. What's the purpose of miracles? To remove doubt. That's their purpose. Don't forget that. It's not special effects. It's not so you look at it and say, whoa, that was awesome. That's not the purpose. The purpose is there should be no doubt left. That's the reason those miracles were given. But within one generation, the miracle dies. The miracle dies. Why? Because for the next generation, that miracle is just a story. They didn't see it. For you to experience a miracle, you have to see it with your own eyes. Even that next generation of the Banu Israel, or the next generation of the followers of Isa alayhi salam, or Salih alayhi salam, or Ibrahim alayhi salam, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, Allah says there are some people with him. When he walked out of a fire without burning, there were some people with him. Those people, when they tell the story to their children, it is just a story. They didn't see it. Like, come on, Dad. Really? Okay, fine. After all, this is Sunday school. I'll follow along. But really, I have my doubts. I have my questions. But this final Qur'an, this last revelation that Allah gave us a miracle inside it that is not for the eyes. It's for the ears. And it's not for every ear. There's a big difference now. Those miracles, even if you weren't follower of Musa, if you were just fishing in the river, and the water parted, and you looked at that man, you said, that man, he's got some connection with God, I don't know what's going on over here. You would see that as a miracle, yes or no? Yes. You would, immediately. But the Qur'an, anybody who reads it, are they going to see it as miraculous? No. You have people who read it, يَزِيدُهُمْ نُفُورًا, it increases them in even more hatred. They used to hate Islam before. After reading the Quran, they really hate Islam. They really hate Islam. There are people who were skeptical before. After reading a translation, they become even more skeptical, isn't it? So the question is, where's the miracle? The miracle, Allah decided for the last messenger, and this last message is no longer free. It's not just anybody just glances at it and they see a miracle. Nope. The only way you will find the miracle of this book is if you come looking for it, and you reflect inside this book, and you dig and ponder into this book, then it will become clear this can only be from God. If you give it a shallow look, it will give you nothing. If you decide to dive in deep, I had a friend in college who was born in a Muslim family, but they're not very religious family. They sent him to college. He decided to do a bachelor's in philosophy. What happens after a bachelor's in philosophy? Your iman has a janazah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So he's completely gone off the deep end. He's an agnost. He's a skeptic. He doesn't believe in anything. He's not even sure if he exists. You know, he's one of those guys. He's out there floating in space. And then he was challenged to ponder on the Quran. Just ponder over the Quran. And so he did. He brought all of his philosophical questions, from every ism you can think of, he brought to the Quran. And he just studied it for a couple of years. He just studied the Quran, asking it questions, hoping he can find something philosophy can crush this book. But he kept getting defeated by this book. And you know, people that study philosophy love to debate. So when they lose a debate, they get really ticked off. Their ego is hurt. So they want to come back and crush it the next time. So he keeps coming back with more criticisms, but he's not arguing with a person. Who's he arguing with? This book. He just debated with this book. He used to literally slam it shut sometimes because it shut him up. He was looking for it. I bet you it doesn't have an answer for this. And he reads it. Oh, it's there again. I got to find something else. And he would go back and forth, angry with this book. And 2 years later, he told me himself, I wrestled this book and it pinned me down. And I came to this deen. Yeah, I know. It pinned me down. This is la rayba fihi. But it doesn't give itself for free. He could have been a philosophy student, read a translation of the Quran and say, nothing here, and move on. But if you decide to ponder, why am I saying ponder? That's not something I came up with. That's something Allah's own claim. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Don't they then reflect on the Quran? Because had it been from anyone other than Allah, they would have found a lot of contradictions in it. By the way, if you study the Quran in a shallow way, you will find contradictions. Allah says if they reflect, they will not find contradictions. Which means if they don't reflect, what will happen? They will find contradictions. They will make websites, blogs, videos dedicated to the contradictions. They will make lists of contradictions in the Quran because they don't do tadabbur. And if they were to do tadabbur, then they will become convinced that this can only be the word of Allah. The first part of my relationship with the Quran is there's no doubt in it. It's a miracle. The second part of my relationship with the Quran, hudan lil muttaqeen. It is a guidance. It's advice. It's counsel. Hudan literally means guidance for someone who's lost. Hidayah in Arabic is closely related to the word hadiyah or hadiyah, which means a gift. For the Arab that was lost in the desert, the problem when getting lost in the desert is you don't even know if you're walking in a straight line. Because you could be walking in a straight line but end up circling and ending up where you started. You understand? What's the biggest gift you can give to someone lost in the desert? That's why hadiyah and hadiyah are related to each other. If you flew over with a helicopter and dropped a water bottle and says, good luck man, that's not enough of a gift. He needs hidayah. The hadiyah he needs is hidayah. You understand? That's the one that's going to help him survive, to know which direction to go to. This word itself, it illustrates not the intellectual relationship we have with the Quran, where there's no doubt. That's already covered in La Rayba Fihi. This is the second dimension of our relationship with the Quran. A relationship in which I am constantly seeking direction. I am constantly, just like our bodies have a relationship with water. I can't say I already had water yesterday, no need today. I can't. My body will necessitate water. Isn't it? Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran, when He describes the revelation of the Quran, He always compares it to what? Water. He compares it to water. There's a very close relationship that you have with water that you have with the Quran. Your thirst doesn't let you go. Every few hours you have to what? drink again. Whether it's water or it's some kind of fruit that has water in it or food that has water in it, the water is always there. The liquid is always there, right? Every few hours, you're going to have to fill the thirst of your heart as well. And that water of revelation is actually what? The Qur'an itself. Every few hours, we stand in front of Allah in salah and say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. I'll translate that figuratively. Let us have a drink again. We're thirsty again. You need to guide us again. Guidance and thirst are closely related. You understand? So now, that's the second bit of our relationship. When there's no doubt left, and you're completely convinced this is the word of Allah, then you're going to come to the Qur'an and you're going to ask Allah for guidance. And then when He gives you guidance, you will follow it because there's no doubts. Because there's no doubts. When you see young people reluctant to follow the word of Allah, not so motivated to follow the word of Allah, they're not taking the hudal lil muttaqeen seriously. You know where the problem usually is? The problem is la rayba fihi hasn't been met yet. You have to take care of la rayba fihi, and then what do you get? Hudal lil muttaqeen. There's an order here. There's an order that has to be established. So we have to convince our young generation of the miraculous power of the Qur'an, of why it can only be the word of Allah. It can't be anything else. There's no possibility of doubt inside of this book. And so these three things are in a particular sequence, and that's the next thing I wanted to quickly highlight before you, but again, without getting technical. There's another reading of this ayah, which is ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ all together. What that means is, that is in fact the book. There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that in it, there is guidance for those who have taqwa, for those who want to protect themselves. In other words, if you want to save yourself, if you want to lead a careful life, there is no way Allah will not give you to drink. There is no way Allah will leave you misguided. You know, we're living in the age of over-information, where people are thinking, I don't know what to follow. There's so much conflicting information. If you can turn to Allah and say, I just want to protect myself, Ya Rabbi, and then you come to this book, Allah's guarantee, لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين, there's absolutely no doubt, no disturbing feeling whatsoever that this book will absolutely guide you. In a time where everything else will be confusing, this will be the one place of counsel that will never let you down. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us that lifelong relationship. The final thing I want to share with you before I let you guys go, right on time, bi'idhnillah, is they say هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Some grammarians say that هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ كَحَالٍ يأتي حالا هنا إعرابا. That it comes as an adverbial phrase. Now that's difficult English as well. Let me simplify that for you. It's very cool. You know, when I say, for example, the car is running. That's a running car. I saw the car as it was running. The car is actually, the engine is turned on. And it's actually vibrating. You understand? But if you say the car runs, the car runs. The car may not be on right now. But it has the potential, if you start it, it's going to run. You understand? If you notice something that's actually engaged in the act, you could see it actively doing what you say it's doing, that's called a hal. Otherwise, it's just a sifa. Now Allah Azza wa Jal here says, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ حَالًا. One of the meanings of that is, not only does this book have the power to guide you, it is actually actively guiding. It is engaged in the act of guiding. It's not like it's got the potential for it, but it's not coming out. It's actually running. The engine's running. And you can see it running. It doesn't just have the potential for it. And so Allah Azza wa Jal made this something that is like a living experience for the believer. There are miracles of guidance in the Qur'an that only you will experience. Nobody else can explain them to you. You're going to be in a state of difficulty in your life. You're going to open up Allah's book. You're going to read some page. And you're going to read some ayat, and it's going to have the answer to the exact problem you had. And you cannot prove that to anyone. You cannot convince anyone else that's a miracle. That is a personal gift of guidance from Allah to you, where the guidance of Allah came to life for you. That's the hal of hudan. Hudan lil muttaqeen. For that original generation, they were so fortunate, subhanallah. It was incredible that they used to be in a situation and they didn't know what to do, and the angel Jibreel would bring Qur'an and say, here's what you do. على مكث وقرآنا فرقناه لتقرأه على الناس على مكث ونزلناه تنزيلا in Surah Al-Isra. We revealed it at the very right occasion, at the perfect time the ayat would come down. But now the whole thing is down. For you and me, the entire 23 years of the Prophet ﷺ are right here. Done. What do we do? This is actually, the entire Quran is being described is in the hal of guiding. In other words, it will always give you guidance as though it just came down. As though it just came down for you. That's the gift of Allah Azza wa Jal to those who are muttaqeen. Today our time for dars is done. Tomorrow our assignment inshaAllah ta'ala is to go on and understand these people who protect themselves and tread carefully, who engage in the act of wiqaya for themselves, wiqayatun nafs. Who are these people? How do you become a person of taqwa so they can actually, you and I can actually receive Allah's guidance? Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim wa jazakum Allahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One quick announcement that I